Now, in a few moments, the Greenwich time signal and the news at 10:30 on this Saturday evening.
This is the BBC Light Programme. Here is the news. Mr. Nehru says he can't agree to China's ceasefire terms. The Labour Party is getting ready for a general election next autumn. The Pope's condition has greatly improved. The Commonwealth Games have ended in a carnival atmosphere. Everton, who drew today, are the first team for 3 seasons to stop Spurs scoring at home. Mr. Nehru, in his latest letter to Mr. Chou En-lai, has firmly rejected the Chinese ceasefire proposals of last week. China, he says, is trying to hold territory which was never under her control at any time before September the 8th this year. There's still no positive evidence that the Chinese are withdrawing their forces in the border areas, but according to the Indians, there are signs that Chinese troops are withdrawing in the eastern and middle sectors of the Northeast Frontier Agency. The Deputy Opposition Leader, Mr. George Brown, says the Labour Party is going on the assumption that the general election will be held next autumn, and that the common market, although an important issue, will not be the main one. The party has made its campaign plans, he says, and is ready. Mr. Brown, who was talking to reporters in Swansea, described the unemployment situation as absolutely tragic, and it was now spreading throughout the prosperous regions like the southeast. In Rome, the bishops attending the Vatican Council were told this morning that the Pope's condition had greatly improved, and that he hoped to be able to give his blessing to pilgrims at noon tomorrow from the window of his study overlooking St. Peter's Square. But our Rome correspondent says that this news has not done much to allay anxieties about the general state of the Pope's health and the operation which he's expected to undergo as soon as it's considered he's well enough to bear the strain. The operation would be for prostate gland trouble. The Vatican press office, in a statement this afternoon, said no operation was in prospect. Mr. Mikoyan is on his way home from Washington after meetings with President Kennedy and Mr. Dean Rusk. He said they had discussed Cuba, Berlin, and many other things, and his general impression was that there had been progress in bringing their 2 countries together. He had been convinced that there was goodwill on the American side, and Russia was showing the same spirit. 2 young men wearing balaclava helmets and armed with what were thought to be automatic pistols raided a branch of Barclays Bank at Shepherd's Bush in West London this morning and got between £2,000 and £3,000. They escaped on a motorcycle. The alarm was given by a 14-year-old boy, Peter Holland, son of Mr. Philip Holland, Conservative MP for Acton. Peter saw the men get off the motorcycle and go into the bank, and he thought it strange that they left the engine running. President Tito of Yugoslavia is beginning a fortnight's visit to the Soviet Union tomorrow, his first for 7 years. Our correspondent in Central Europe says a gradual improvement in relations between the Soviet and Yugoslav governments has been noticeable ever since relations between the Russians and the Chinese began to deteriorate seriously 2 years ago. A 10-year-old racing pigeon sold at an auction in London today for what's believed to be a world record price, £900. The bird has won the Grand National of pigeon racing, the King George V Challenge Cup, as well as many other national trophies. At Barrow-in-Furness, the submarine Dreadnought has used her nuclear-powered motors for the first time. She returned from a dock where she'd been for a month to the fitting-out berth where she was built. The commanding officer of Dreadnought, the first atomic-powered submarine in Britain, said, "The next time we move, she will probably be going to sea." The Bath City coroner, summing up at an inquest on a 13-year-old boy electrocuted in a derelict house, has said, "If ever there was an unnecessary death, this was it. The boy, Colin John Palmer, died after picking up a live electric cable in a house due to be demolished." The coroner told the jury that a memorandum from the public health officer about the dangerous condition of the building had gone to a corporation legal assistant who had done nothing about it. He criticized corporation witnesses at the inquest as a remarkable band of administrative incompetence. The jury returned a verdict of accidental death on the boy. This evening, the town clerk of Bath said the coroner's comments weren't justified either on the facts or on the evidence. Fog, which has persisted in a few parts of the country during the day, prevented racing at Catterick and held up the start of Windsor races. It was expected to return over large areas this evening, but a stream of drier air from the continent is clearing things up, and the fog patches left in the North and Midlands should be gone by morning. The forecast is that in most parts of England and Wales, it'll be rather cold tomorrow with hazy sunshine. Elsewhere, it'll be cloudy. Now football. And at White Hart Lane, 60,000 people saw the top two clubs in Division 1, Everton and Spurs, play a goalless draw. Thousands of supporters were locked out of the ground before the kick-off, and inside the ambulance men were kept busy. The result means that Everton keep their 2-point lead over Spurs, and it's the first time Spurs have failed to score at home since April 1960. Burnley, in third place, lost a little ground. They were beaten 2-1 away to Nottingham Forest. But Leicester kept up their challenge with a 3-1 win over Wolves at Molineux, and are now only a point behind Burnley. The biggest First Division win was scored by Aston Villa. They beat Bolton 5-0. The champions, Ipswich, enjoyed their first home league win for 3 months by 2-0 against Sheffield Wednesday. They move up to third from bottom, above Fulham and Leyton Orient. In the second division, Chelsea dropped a point at home to Plymouth, but still lead by 2 points from Bury, who drew 0-0 with Newcastle. Their nearest rivals, Stoke and Sunderland, both won at home. England centre-forward Alan Peacock scored a hat-trick for Middlesbrough at the Valley to help his club beat Charlton by 4-3. Peterborough had a 6-2 win over Colchester to increase their lead in the third division to 2 points. Swindon's 3-1 win over Notts County was marred by an injury to their right back, Terry Wallen. He was taken to hospital with a broken leg. In the same game, Notts County's John Sheridan was sent off. The fourth division leaders, Oldham, were 2 goals down to York City, but recovered to win 3-2. Mansfield, in second place, could only draw at Newport, so Oldham now have a 2-point lead. The Scottish League champions Dundee were the day's top scorers. They beat Queen of the South by 10 goals to 2, scoring 8 of them after Queens had lost their goalkeeper George Farm with an injury. Dundee inside left Alan Gilzean scored 7 of the goals. The league leaders, Rangers, were held to a 1-1 draw at Motherwell, and Partick Thistle, who beat Airdrie 3-0, are now level on points. In the second division, the leaders St Johnstone scored 7 times without reply against Brechin City. The first England Rugby Union trial ended in a narrow win for the senior team. The Whites beat the colours by 13 points to 11. Roberts and Owen scored tries for the Whites. Hosen converted both and kicked a penalty. For the colours, Ranson and Dee went over. Barnes converted 1 and kicked a penalty. The Canadian touring team were beaten 8 points to 0 by the Welsh under-23 15 at Cardiff. Cricket. In the first test at Brisbane, England were 235 runs behind Australia, with 6 wickets in hand at the close of play on the second day. And once again it was Ted Dexter to the rescue. He rallied England with a brilliant innings of 70 after Richie Benaud, the Australian captain, had sent back Puller and Shepherd with 65 runs on the board. The scores at the close: Australia 404, England 169 for 4. England won 3 more gold medals on the final day of the Empire Games at Perth, 2 in athletics and 1 in cycling. Howard Payne won the hammer. The men's sprinters got home first in the 4x110 yards relay, and Wesley Mason from Sheffield won the 117-mile road cycle race. But there were disappointments too. Betty Moore could only get a silver medal in the 80 metres hurdles, and in the men's 4x440 yards and women's 4x110 yards relays, our runners came in second. In all 3 events, England had been confidently expected to strike gold. The mile was run in blustery conditions, and as expected was won by New Zealand's Peter Snell. Tony Harris of Wales was 6th, Stan Taylor and Bruce Tullow 7th and 9th, and no one broke the 4-minute time. Australia scraped a further 5 gold medals in today's events. Scooped a further 5 gold medals in today's events, and lead the final tally with 38, followed by England with 29 and New Zealand with 10. And that's the end of the news.
Well, the time now on this Saturday night, pretty well 10 seconds to go. It's 10:40, which is time to go out and about on a Saturday. And where better to go than the heart of London's West End, particularly at the present moment, the heart of London's West End, the Latin Beat in Regent Street at the Edmundo Ross Club.